Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, dear devotees, Jai Shri Prabhupada, Nitish Prabhu, Pawan Prabhu, Vishwanath Prabhu for leading the chanting this morning. Okay, let's start with our Mangalacharan. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yudapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Sha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminati Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivas Adi Gaur Bhaktavranda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Okay, we'll continue our prayer of the week, Shri Kevalashtakam. Anybody who would like to try reciting today? Okay, if not, then I'll continue. So yeah, this is very simple. Like I said, this can be sung in any Bhagavad Gita meters as we sing. So I'll try to sing in that. So Shri Kevalashtakam ki jai. मधुरं मधुरेभ्योऽपि मङ्गलेभ्योऽपि मङ्गलम् पावनं पावनेभ्योऽपि हरेर्नामैव केवलम् आब्रह्मस्तम्भपर्यन्तं सर्वं मायामयं जगत् सत्यं सत्यं पुनः सत्यं हरेर्नामैव केवलम् स गुरु सा पिता चापि सा माता बन्धवोऽपि सः शिक्षयेच्चेत् सदा स्मर्तुं हरेर्नामैव केवलम् निःश्वासेन हि विश्वासः कदा रुद्धो भविष्यति कीर्तनीयामतो बाल्याद् हरेर्नामैव केवलम् हरिः सदा वसेत् तत्र यत्र भागवता जनाः गायन्ति भक्तिभावेन हरेर्नामैव केवलम् अहो दुःखं महादुःखं दुःखादुःखतरं यतः काचर्थं विस्मृतं रत्न हरेर्नामैव केवलम् दीयतां कर्णो नियतां वचः गीयतां नित्यं हरेर्नामैव केवलम् त्रिणीकृत्य जगत्सर्वं राजते सकलोपरि चिदानन्दमयं शुद्धं हरेर्नामैव केवलम् हरेर्नामैव केवलम् हरेर्नामैव केवलम् हरेर्नामैव केवलम् हरेर्नामैव केवलम् हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे श्री केवलाष्टकम की जय श्री नीलकंठ गोस्वामी महाराज की जय जगत गुरु श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय Anybody would like to take up the service of reading translation?
I can read, Prabhuji.
Yes, Meena Mataji. Hare Krishna.
More sweet than all other sweet things, more auspicious than all other auspicious things, the greatest purifier of all purifying things. The holy name of Sri Hari alone is everything. The entire universe, from exalted Brahma down to the lowly clumps of grass, is a product of the illusory energy of the Supreme Lord. The only thing that is reality, reality, again I say reality, the holy name of Sri Hari alone is everything. That person is a true perceptor, a true father, or a true mother, and a true friend. Also, only if they teach one to always remember. The holy name of Sri Hari alone is everything. There is no certainty when the last breath will come and put an abrupt halt to all one's material plans. Therefore, it is wise to always practice chanting from very childhood. The holy name of Sri Hari alone is everything. Lord Hari eternally dwells in that place where truly exalted, spiritually advanced souls sing in the mood of pure devotion. The holy name of Sri Hari alone is everything. Aho, what a sorrow, what a great sorrow, more painful than any other misery in the world. Mistaking it as a mere piece of glass, the people have forgotten this jewel. The holy name of Sri Hari alone is everything. It should be heard again and again with one's ears. It should be uttered over and over with one's voice. It should be perpetually sung and sung anew. The holy name of Sri Hari alone is everything. It makes the entire universe seem insignificant as a blade of grass. It reigns supreme all over in a splendorous manner. It is full of eternally conscious divine ecstasy. It is supremely pure. The holy name of Sri Hari alone is everything. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Vivo. Thank you, Mataji. Anything that resonated with you from this prayer translation?
Yes, Prabhuji. Also, I was thinking about that other chant that we say Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Evam Kevalam, Kalo Naste, Evam Gatiranyatha. So it reminds me of that. It kind of reiterates that as well. So, uh,
Mm.
like it says, no certainty when the last breath will come. During the sorrow or sorrows and joys, they will lose kind of its meaning when we are completely surrendered to Sri Hari. So that's what I feel, that it will make you strong enough to become, what do they call it? Get away from the non dualities of the life. So that's what I kind of gather. Thank you,
Yes.
Prabhuji.
Wonderful. Thank you. Wonderful realization. Yes. Yeah. So as we were reading in Prabhupada Leelamrit yesterday, like Prabhupada was giving that example of the Markat Vairagya, to that Mataji. Was that her name? Leelavati Mataji? Yeah, Leelavati Mataji, I think. So, who had that small daughter, right? Yeah, Subhadra. And he was giving, like, what's the difference between a monkey, and a cat, kitten? It's a small baby monkey like that. So, the monkey tries to hold on to its mother versus kitten is carefree, right? Is fully surrendered. So, the cat holds it, even though it looks like the kitten is held in the mouth of the cat, but actually it is fully surrendered. So, like a monkey, if he jumps from one tree to another tree, chances of the baby falling down is there because the little baby, with its own strength, is trying to hold on to the monkey. But the kitten will not have any chance because the cat is holding onto the kitten. So like that, when we are holding our japa beads, that reminds us of that example that, we are holding on to the lotus feet, Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Eva Kevalam. We just hold on to the lotus feet of the Lord. And then the Lord is holding us actually, because we are just holding on to his name, which is not different from himself. So we are actually holding on to the lotus feet of the Lord, fully surrendered to just the Hare Nam. Then he carries us. So that's so beautiful. All these examples, analogies Prabhupada brings, this resonates and stays with us in our hearts and makes our conviction more stronger. Yes, so we are reading chapter 56. I was also thinking as we were reading, I was actually looked at last night. I was talking to Harshika about this and reflected on the date when it started because, like I said, she is also reading the same book, seventh volume, and it reminded me that when I looked at the chapter beginning again, it reminded that Prabhupada came back on December 14th, 1967 to San Francisco. This chapter started as December 14th, so that was so wonderful because December 15th, when we had Safala Ekadashi, this Monday, is when Prabhupada actually departed in our reading. But this reminds us that he never departed, actually. He's always with us. So December 14th, he actually came back. And December 15th is when we were reading that he actually left this mortal planet. But actually, this is also a very nice coincidence that December 14th, he came back. So he never really left. He's always there with us. So, if we think he's with us, he is with us always. And also, I was thinking just a few days ago, everything with Prabhupada is so like, if you try to find connections, everything is so nice. Like Prabhupada in 1922 is when he first met his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. When his spiritual master told him, the very first instance, that you are an intelligent boy, you should preach the science of Krishna consciousness in English all over the world. So 1922, he meets his spiritual master. 1933 is when he gets his Diksha. he gets initiated. 1944, he starts Back to Godhead. 1955, he takes Vanaprastha. 1966, he establishes ISKCON. 1977 is when he leaves his body. So it's so nice. 22, 33, 44, 55, 66, 77. So beautiful. So that's the that's the glory of a pure devotee. Whatever they do, everything becomes glorious. So just the years that he did everything, it reminds us. It will always remain in my brain. Actually, I heard this from Gauranga Prabhu, and I only thought of 22 and 33 and 44. I had those three, but then when he connected 55, 66, and 77, that made so much more sense. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, Prabhupada is now in San Francisco taking his morning walk. So let's join Prabhupada on his morning walks. Hari Bol. Okay, walking through Golden Gate Park one day, they heard a scratching coming from a garbage can. Prabhupada went over and looked in, then pulled back in repulsion. A big city rat had somehow become trapped in the garbage can and was scratching, trying to get out. Prabhupada shook his head and said, "He's doomed." He walked on. Prabhupada commented that later the garbage man would come, see the rat, and kill him. Prabhupada was always after the philosophical and Krishna conscious meaning. Even a seemingly ordinary comment about the rat's doom struck his disciples as deep and philosophical. They could understand that their position was similar. They were trapped in the material world, waiting for the end, but Prabhupada was saving them. On his return from India, after taking part in the first evening kirtan in the San Francisco temple, Prabhupada said, "You have all advanced." He saw that the devotees had become more enthusiastic and ecstatic. Guests were also rising and dancing, and that pleased his own Krishna consciousness. Each night after kirtan, he would lecture. He was discussing the verses in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. "I'm making here a series of lectures on the Krishna conscious yoga system." Prabhupada wrote to Brahmananda in mid-December of 1967, and they are tape recorded. Prabhupada thought of assembling the lectures into a small book. Indian gurus introducing self-styled techniques were increasingly popular in the US. Therefore, Prabhupada wanted to distinguish the standard form of yoga and meditation as taught by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita from the farce taught by gurus who never mention Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but rather say everyone is equal to God, and whose disciples are allowed to indulge their senses in intoxication and illicit sex. They give a mantra for a fee, Prabhupada noted, and claim that by meditating 20 minutes in the morning, you can become God in 6 months. He was surprised that American people who were supposedly intelligent were being so easily cheated. "We have actually seen such so-called yogis," Prabhupada said, "sleeping and snoring while meditating." "Service begins by the tongue," Prabhupada said in one of his December 67 lectures, "by chanting this Hare Krishna and by the taste of Krishna Prasadam. The beginning process is very nice. If prasadam is offered to you, accept it. If you become submissive and give service by these two practices, Krishna will reveal himself to you, just like Krishna is revealing himself to Arjuna. Arjuna is a devotee. He is a friend. I'm speaking to you that old system of yoga, Bhakti Yoga. Only one who has developed the service spirit with love and devotion, he can understand Krishna." After the lecture, Prabhupada would continue the theme, Krishna consciousness, in his room. It was the same theme as on his morning walks, in his letters, or in his intimate talks with individual disciples or visitors. It was the theme of his writing and the very heartbeat of his life. When a devotee asked Prabhupada how the soul is carried from body to body, Prabhupada replied, "By desire," and cited himself as an example. "Just like I have come to America. Why? Because I wanted to preach. So by the desire I was carried here. Otherwise, I have no business to come here." Chidananda. There would be 3, 4, or 5 devotees in his room, and he would just start talking. They would somehow gather in his room, and he would start talking about what he was trying to do. His talk was not directed specifically to anyone, but he was saying that this is what he was doing. He made everything very clear. He wanted to publish his books. He was trying to get a press for this back in New York. And if he had a letter from Rai Ram in New York, he would read the letter right there. In this way, it was allaying any doubts in people's mind about what he was really going to try to do. He had his books and the temple. He was concerned about the temple and the new lunch program, where we were giving out free prasadam. His concern kept everybody going. Before he came, there wasn't that much activity, but when Prabhupada came, things started bustling very fast. One night in his room on Willard Street, Prabhupada was talking about seeing Krishna. "Don't try to see him," Prabhupada said. but act in such a way that he will come and see you. Suryadas was a blind man, yet due to his sincere chanting, "Oh Krishna, Krishna, Krishna," Krishna came to see him. So Krishna is there, whether we see him or not. All we must do is become sincere, and he will present himself, whether we see him or not. Krishna hugs the cow. What does the cow know? He's a dumb animal. Is the cow as great as Arjuna? No. Yet, due to the cow's sincerity to come and lick Krishna's body, Krishna says, "Oh, yes, my dear cow, come, and I shall take care of you." And Krishna gives him some sweet nectar. So we should want Krishna to come and see us, not that you should want to see Krishna. At that time, few devotees were very well read in Prabhupada's books. They didn't know the vastness of philosophy. Only a few books were published, and so Prabhupada in person was the real source of Krishna conscious knowledge. 18-year-old Kim used to have philosophical arguments with his atheistic father and then invariably have questions for Prabhupada at the end of the lectures. He would ask so consistently that Prabhupada would turn to him and say, "Are there any questions?" Given a good question, Prabhupada might launch into another impromptu lecture. Kim's sister, who was only 16, also wanted to get initiated. "Are there offenses in the spiritual world?" she asked Prabhupada at one evening lecture. Prabhupada turned to the audience. "See," he said, "this little girl, she wants to go back to Godhead." And in the course of the answer, he said, "Krishna may kiss you." When he said that, Kim's sister blushed and everyone laughed. Upendra asked, "Swamiji, how should we feel humble?" "I feel sometimes that when I try to be humble, I first think about it and then I try to be humble, but it seems artificial." "This is humbleness," Prabhupada said. When we think, "Oh, I should have done this, I should have done it this way," that is good, because then there is always room for improvement. If you go on thinking, "Oh, I did not perform this duty so nicely, I should have done it in this way," then you will improve. Our love for Krishna keeps growing as long as we think that we are not doing the most for Krishna and that we must do more. This is humbleness. If you think, "Oh, I did this so wonderfully, I'm such a nice and sincere devotee," then this is not good. There will be no improvement. If, in questioning, anyone brought up the names and philosophies of famous contemporary Mayavadis, Prabhupada would become angry. He was adamantly against the mission of Mayavadis, who denied the absolute reality of Krishna. Prabhupada expressed that they had greatly damaged the original Vedic culture by spreading misleading doctrines. One time, Malati brought up the subject of certain Mayavadi teachings, and Prabhupada, as usual, argued strongly. Afterwards, Upendra chastised Malati, saying that she shouldn't have brought it up because Prabhupada was still recuperating in his health. In his excitement, his blood pressure might rise too much. Malati was silent, but later gave Upendra a letter to be delivered to Prabhupada. "What have you said to Malati?" Prabhupada asked after reading her letter. "That now she no longer feels she can come before me." Upendra explained how he had corrected her for inciting Prabhupada too much. It was nonsense, Prabhupada said, and he told Upendra to apologize to her. Uddhava confided to Kim that he felt left out because he never had any questions to ask Prabhupada. Kim encouraged him. One night Uddhava finally asked, but it was a strange question. "Swamiji," said Uddhav, "what is Radharani's relationship with Krishna's brother Balaram?" Prabhupada was annoyed. "Why are you asking that? You don't even understand the basic principle of the Bhagavad Gita. You don't understand the nature of the soul and the super soul, or Krishna and devotional service. And yet you are asking questions like this?" For a long while Uddhava didn't ask again. Shortly after Prabhupada's arrival, he continued the process of initiating disciples. Kim and his younger sister were initiated at the same time. A few days before, Kim had suggested his sister should go to Prabhupada's apartment and ask to be his disciple. "Are you following the four rules?" Prabhupada asked. "Yes," she replied, and then he said it was all right. "I just wanted to say something else," she continued. "That is, I heard that you had taken birth because in your last life you had been a physician and had killed a snake for some medical purpose." Prabhupada laughed. "Oh, your brother has told you that?" "Yeah," she replied. No more was said about it. Kim was given the name Krishnadas, and Prabhupada also initiated a few disciples who had returned from New York. He performed the initiation ceremony in the temple and chanted on everyone's beads, including the New York disciples. That night, he also spoke for a few moments on the telephone with Brahmananda in New York and told him, "I have returned by the grace of Krishna, and I am now fit to serve you." Prabhupada said he was fit to serve the devotees and he certainly looked and acted wonderfully, but he was still feeling the effects of his stroke of half a year ago. There was a persistent ringing sound like a bell in his head, and he couldn't sleep more than 3 hours at night. and one in the day. But he pushed on, as always. He even wrote a letter to a disciple pointing out that although he had disturbance in his head, he was continuing to work on the transcendental plane, and he advised his disciples to do likewise. Prabhupada again took up his translating of the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which he had put aside for half a year. Living in the same house with the brahmacharis, he would wake before any of them and work at his translating. Then, after they arose around 5, they would hear him ringing a bell in his room and they would smell incense. Because of their proximity, the boys would often drop by his room. They would watch Prabhupada sitting at his desk, fresh from his morning shower. He would meticulously place several tiny spoonfuls of water in his left palm and then rub a ball of Vrindavan clay into his palm, making the mixture for Vaishnava Tilaka. Using a hand mirror, he would artistically make the markings of Tilaka, first on his forehead and then on 11 other parts of the body, as directed by the Vaishnava Smriti. Prabhupada would then hold his Brahmana thread and silently say the Gayatri mantras while facing the pictures of Krishna he had on a little altar. One day, while sitting with Prabhupada in the morning, Upendra mentioned that the brahmacharis put their tilaka on while in the bathroom. No, said Prabhupada, tilaka should be put on in front of Krishna, like this. Well, Upendra said, here I've seen them putting it on in the bathroom. Do not worry too much about the rules and regulations. Just get everyone to chant Hare Krishna. One thing Prabhupada liked about California was that it was easy for him to obtain eucalyptus twigs there. Prabhupada used them for brushing his teeth in the morning. He liked them cut the thickness of the little finger and about 6 inches long, and they were soaked in water overnight before he used them. At this time, Krishnadas was going out in the morning to pick them. He would keep a good supply wrapped up in the tin foil in the refrigerator. Hearing that eucalyptus trees were uncommon in America, Prabhupada had asked Krishnadas to send him a supply wherever he traveled. These sometimes small and domestic dealings of Prabhupada with his disciples may be seen by someone outside of devotional service as of little consequence, but to the devotee, they are always important because the devotee holds the pleasure of his spiritual master as the supreme value in life. If the spiritual master, who's Krishna's representative, is pleased by even a little service, then that means that Krishna is pleased. For the most part, Prabhupada's disciples simply knew that they loved him, loved serving him, and felt great satisfaction and bliss when he showed his pleasure with them. Govindadasi. He needed some house slippers. I saw that, so I went and bought him some house slippers. He told me he wore size 8. I got him some all man-made slippers in San Francisco. They were black with red, fluffy, furry lining so that they were easy to slip on the feet. Whenever he would walk around the house, you could hear this nice little shuffling sound. He would have his hands behind his back and his head held high. Although some of the devotees had their own idea that Prabhupada should go on a special diet, he didn't think much of it. He wanted his regular prasadam, dal, rice, chapatis and sabji. Upendra was regularly cooking these staples. But one day, Yamuna came into the kitchen and asked Upendra if she could cook a special lunch for Prabhupada. He stepped back and allowed her. Yamuna was learning the art of Indian cooking. She made extra preparations, sour, spicy and sweet. Upendra brought in the tray as usual, without any comment. A few moments later, Prabhupada rang his bell, calling for Upendra. Who has made this prasadam? Prabhupada asked, looking up as he sat on a cushion before a small table which held his lunch. Yamuna Devi cooked it, Swamiji, said Upendra. I do not want such fancy things, said Prabhupada. I want to eat simply, a little rice, a little dal, like that. He wasn't very pleased with the special feast. He was used to eating the same simple things every day. Upendra continued to cook like that, occasionally creating variety by cooking khichdi and fried eggplant in curry sauce once a week. But Upendra was also extravagant. Prabhupada confided to Gaurasundara that Upendra is using too much ghee so that I cannot taste the prasadam before it slips down my throat. It is too slippery. One of the devotees who had been with Prabhupada in India wrote that Swamiji should not be given sweets. Prabhupada didn't think much of that either, as he had introduced coconut laddus on the first evening of his return. Upendra. He gave us the recipe that you grate the coconut and cook it in a pot along with some sugar and camphor and cook it until it comes to a certain thickness and then it can be squeezed into balls and offered in this way. So he was giving this instruction to me and I was following. The stove was an old-fashioned type that allowed for one half of the stove to be covered with a safety cover, While I cooked, Prabhupada leaned against the corner of the stove with his elbows, his chin resting in his hands, and he leaned and watched me stir. He got up and walked away and then came back just like a restless young boy. He walked around the kitchen and then returned to look into the pot, stirring it to see if it was done. He asked, "Is it done?" "I think it is done." "It must be done. Let us try." I took the substance out, and although it was still hot, we began squeezing it into balls. As soon as one ball was squeezed, Prabhupada took it and popped it into his mouth. He turned away from the stove and said, and shaking his head pleasingly said, "Yes, it is done. Very nice." Prabhupada spontaneously showed his displeasure also. That was the risk of serving him closely as his personal servant or cook. One day, Govinda Dasi was cooking a cereal for Prabhupada's breakfast when he walked past the kitchen, looked in, and asked, "What are you cooking?" "I'm making cereal, Swamiji," she replied. "But today is Ekadashi," said Prabhupada. "Oh, thank you, Swamiji. I didn't know." She thought that by his reminder, she had not actually done anything wrong. After all, neither he nor anyone else had eaten the grains. But Prabhupada began to criticize her with a severity that surprised her. It was a great disqualification on her part, he said, to cook grains on Ekadashi, the day when devotees fast from all grains. He kept repeating that she had cooked grains on Ekadashi and described her mistake as very serious. Her one mistake seemed to indicate a whole wrong mentality. Govindadasi finally felt it was as bad as if she had actually eaten grains. So she fasted entirely for the rest of the day. Many things had to be done exactly right. When Upendra placed a small amount of salt on Prabhupada's plate in front of the rice, it made it difficult for Prabhupada to eat the rice without mixing it in the salt. Prabhupada mentioned it, but when Upendra did it again the next day, Prabhupada said, "I told you to put the salt in the back of the rice, not in the front." And foregoing his own pleasure due to his servant's foolishness, Prabhupada added, "Now give me no more salt." The next day, however, Upendra put salt and pepper in separate containers and placed them beside the plate so Prabhupada could move them as he liked. Prabhupada accepted them silently. Whenever a mistake was rectified, he seemed to immediately forget the wrong. Hare Krishna. Hmm. Okay, nice. Yeah, so these are again the early days. It's nice. It's like yeah, like Satsuru Maharaj was saying, we should not think that we have read Prabhupada Lilamrit once and we are done, right? This can be read again and again and again, from front to from beginning to end. So it's like that, it's like we started back again the journey with Prabhupada 1967. It is just reminding us all these. Like yesterday when we were reading, he brought that the coconut grater. And I was remembering, in our childhood days, I'm sure most of us in India have used that, the mechanical device where you kind of spin holding the handle and then it put the half of the coconut and then grates the coconut. Yeah, I remember those days sitting in my home in kitchen trying to, I would do that, grate the whole coconut and then yeah, making those laddus. Yeah. Prabhupada coming close to that stove, was also scary. At least for me, it reminded me of my day when, uh, I was very fascinated when they would make pani puris at home. And like I mentioned this in the past, I was asked to bring that table, like a table or a stool, and then I brought it, and then it was wiggly, it was wobbly, and I lost my balance. I was just so curious to look at the pani puris frying in the pan that my face went straight into the pan of pani puris. So fully getting burnt when I was a child. But again, by the mercy of the Lord, everything was fine. I think growing as kids, our skins are changing fast, so hopefully that helped. But yeah, so many small things we see. Yamuna Dasi, Mataji, we had read about her journey, when she was in India in that train. You remember, I think we all remember that incident where Prabhupada was lying down and then she comes and Prabhupada tells her to bring some prasad in the train and she goes and into the pantry and then she's not given permission and then she goes to the engine the superintendent, and then she tells him that I'll jump off the train if I don't get permission to cook rice. So many wonderful things. Again, you see, these are the early days. Whatever training Prabhupada gave them, how much faith they had in their spiritual master, and the love and affection for him only grew day by day, more stronger and stronger. So yeah, so many nice things. Just by reading this pastimes, it almost makes us feel like we are there with Prabhupada and with his disciples, sincere disciples, trying to trying to serve him. Like Prabhupada is saying, don't try to see Krishna, act in such a way with sincerity, with love, that Krishna will come to see you like that. So even the Prabhupada left, Prabhupada has come back. See, just like because they did their service with so much sincerity and love for Srila Prabhupada that he never left. Or even if he left, he came back, or he is always there here in spirit with them. Hare Krishna. Okay, anybody else would like to share anything? Anything that you liked, loved, learned? Any other thing from Prabhupada Leelamrit so far?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Hare Krishna, everyone. I was just feeling very happy to hear about the early days again. These small stories, small gestures. I was just thinking, we don't need to do anything big. The small gestures, the small service to Guru Gauranga and Sri Krishna will please them. As the devotees were doing for Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was correcting them, and then he was, pacified again. So in this journey, we are also making mistakes, but we are learning and we are growing. So that is all is important. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Just feeling happy to hear those early days, pastimes again. Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, so we should not cook, or we should not only just eat. Prabhupada said not even cook. So it's good that for those of us, where the whole family is able to eat Ekadashi food on Ekadashi, that is nice. We are not cooking separately grains for kids or for others, on Ekadashi. So that's a good, as long as we can maintain that. But again, like Prabhupada said, in other place he said, forget the rules and regulations, just chant Hare Krishna. So at least we can all chant, try to chant attentively, sincerely, and hopefully that one service that we do, it's because chanting is everything in itself. It is sadhana, it is also seva, it's also prayer for seva, right? It's like that the seed which has everything. A banyan tree exists in a small seed of mustard seed holds the whole plant of mustard. And it can so such a small seed, but yeah. So like that, the holy name that we have received as a seed of devotional service from our Guru Parampara is everything. If we chant Hare Krishna, the Sankirtan movement, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was established, then life will be perfect. Hari Bol. Okay, anybody else would like to say anything? All right. If not, then we'll pause here for today. Thank you so much for your wonderful association with Srila Prabhupada through Srila Prabhupada Lilamrit. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyo vacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnavrind ki jai. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada Lila ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Have a great day, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.